At this very early stage, we're keeping an open mind as to any motivation behind this attack. The investigation is now being led by officers from Counter-Terrorism Policing London, who are working closely with our local officers in response to this incident.
But after the September the 11th attacks, Barrett turned his attention to Britain. He recruited 7 men who were in effect a sleeper cell. Together, they planned to kill thousands of people.
It is absolutely staggering. And they had advanced plans. Some had gone to Pakistan for terrorist training. Some were trained in counter-surveillance. It's absolutely astonishing.
So last night it was reported that a 13-year-old boy had been arrested for attempted murder after screaming Allahu Akbar and stabbing 2 pupils at Kingsbury High School in North London. Now, there's a secret element to this story that nobody is talking about. Nobody is talking about this guy. He's a convicted Al-Qaeda terrorist and indirectly ties into this story. Now, I'm going to talk about this guy a little bit later, but first, let's look at an interview from Metropolitan Police speaking about the 13-year-old boy who stabbed 2 pupils at Kingsbury High School in London.
I'm Detective Chief Superintendent Luke Williams, and I'm responsible for policing in North West London. I'm here today to provide an update in relation to an incident which took place at Kingsbury High School in Brent earlier. Officers were called to Bacon Lane at around 12:40 hours following a report that a 13-year-old boy had been stabbed. Armed and local officers were on scene within 13 minutes of the 999 call. On arrival, we were made aware that a 12-year-old boy had also been stabbed and the boys had been taken to hospital. We await an update on how they are, though we understand their conditions to be serious. The thoughts of everyone at the Met are with them and their loved ones, and we want to thank the doctors and nurses who are providing the boys with urgent care. The suspect, who we believe to be 13, left the scene following the stabbing. After urgent inquiries, our officers arrested him and also recovered a weapon which we believe to have been used in the stabbing. The suspect was arrested on suspicion of attempted murder and remains in custody for questioning by our officers. This is a fast-moving and developing investigation, but we're not currently looking for anyone else in relation to this incident. At this very early stage, we're keeping an open mind as to any motivation behind this attack. However, due to the surrounding circumstances, the investigation is now being led by officers from Counter-Terrorism Policing London, who are working closely with our local officers in response to this incident. The investigation has not currently been declared a terrorist incident, and the investigation team will now be working at pace to gather any evidence and to establish the full circumstances of what has happened as quickly as possible. I absolutely recognise that this incident will cause considerable concern, especially amongst the local community, students and parents at the school. I hope the news that we've arrested and detained the suspect will provide some reassurance, but our officers will remain in the area to offer support and answer any questions. We'd encourage anyone with concerns or further information to speak with them, and we'll provide further updates as additional facts emerge. Thank you for your time.
So, as this police officer said, this is not being considered a terrorist attack, but the terrorism police are involved in this investigation. And not only that, the culprit, whilst he was stabbing people, he was screaming Allahu Akbar. Now, I want to dive into this story a little bit deeper. Now, I want to bring your attention back to this person because he actually ties into this story. His name is Diran Barat. He is a convicted Al-Qaeda terrorist who plotted to kill hundreds of people with bombs. He was sentenced to 40 years in prison. And guess what? He went to Kingsbury High School, the same school where this stabbing took place. And I just want to read you a little bit of this guy's story. Bharat was born in Baroda, India, into a Hindu family, but converted to Islam later on in life. His parents moved to the UK in 1973. He was aged 1. He attended the Kingsbury High School in North London. He worked from 1991 to 1995 as an airline ticket and reservations agent for Air Malta in Piccadilly, central London. He converted to Islam at the age of 20 in the UK. And here's the news report from 2007 about Dhiren Bharat, who went to Kingsbury High School.
It was 5 months before September the 11th. These gas cylinders normally provide nitrogen for the New York subway system. Dhiren Bharat, the man who filmed this footage, wanted to use the cylinders as a potential bomb. Over the pictures, you can hear someone imitating the sound of an explosion. Police say Dhiren Bharat, a Muslim convert, was on a reconnaissance mission for Al-Qaeda. Posing as a tourist, he filmed targets including the New York Stock Exchange, adding his comments in subtitles at the bottom of the screen. But after the September the 11th attacks, Bharat turned his attention to Britain. He recruited 7 men who were in effect a sleeper cell. Together, they planned to kill thousands of people. One of their plots to use an explosives-packed limousine and to blow up a London tube tunnel under the River Thames. They also wanted to use a dirty radiation bomb or a radiological dispersal device. It's a deadly weapon that combines radioactive material with a conventional explosive like dynamite. It's designed to disperse over a large area. Its impact, death and mass panic. It was only in 2004 that officers here at Scotland Yard and Britain's intelligence agencies became aware there was a senior Al-Qaeda operative working within the UK. They identified that man as Dhiren Bharat. Police say it was only his subsequent arrest that prevented him from carrying out mass murder. Police discovered books and notes at Bharat's house on hazardous chemicals and explosives. He was sentenced to life for his part in the plot last year. It was a major coup for British officers, but the country's head of counter-terrorism says there are still many sleeper cells out there.
Now, I'm not saying that there are thousands of active terrorists at any one moment. What I am saying, though, is that there's a substantial number of people who are either vulnerable or who are already looking to commit acts of terrorism. So this is a challenge that's not going to go away, and we can't be precise at any particular time. We know how many people we're investigating, and it's substantial.
All 7 men have been jailed for up to 26 years each. The judge told them the suffering their families would experience was but a tiny fraction of the suffering that would have been experienced had their plans been translated into reality. Nazanin Bashiri, Al Jazeera, London.
So yeah, this was a report in 2007 after Dhiren Bharat was sentenced to 40 years in jail for attempting to kill thousands of people. He was an Al-Qaeda terrorist and he went to Kingsbury High School, the same school where this stabbing took place. Now, last year, a former Metropolitan Police detective, he actually spoke about Dhiren Bharat's accomplices being released from prison, and he said, this is a real threat and we need to remain on high alert.
Peter Blacksley is in the studio with me. He's a former Metropolitan Police detective. Hello, Peter.
Good morning.
Chris Phillips is former head of the National Counter-Terrorism Security Office. Chris, I'll come to you in a second. Peter, how could this be allowed to happen? I think there'll be a lot of people scratching their heads thinking, surely these people should die in prison.
It is absolutely staggering that these people who were supporting Dhiren Bharat in his very advanced plans to blow up places in New York like the International Monetary Fund headquarters and to blow up pedestrian foot tunnels in London so that they could bring death to hundreds or thousands of people, and they had advanced plans. Some had gone to Pakistan for terrorist training, some were trained in counter-surveillance so that they could identify if they were being followed or not. One had a garage and was sourcing gas canisters and tyres to be used in a bomb. Another was an engineer and had structural expertise, so knew where to place bombs to bring down buildings. It's absolutely astonishing that now all of Barrow's co-conspirators are out on the streets.
Just going back to this story about the young 13-year-old that has stabbed 2 pupils at Kingsbury High School, My belief is that it is an Islamist attack, but not only that, something that people need to understand is that people don't just stab somebody overnight. They don't just jump out of bed one day, start screaming Allahu Akbar and stabbing people. This is long-term radicalization. You're talking about generations and generations of radicalization through mosques, through Islamic centers, etc., or different pieces of content. You might have watched videos online. You might have been introduced to certain people. Just for example, I was looking at how many Islamic centers and mosques are within a 2-mile radius of Kingsbury High School. And there's actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 Islamic centers and mosques within a 2-mile radius of Kingsbury High School. So has that had an influence on this pupil that has decided to stab 2 people? Has this terrorist attacker, Diram Barat, who went to Kingsbury High School, has he or other people had an indirect impact on this 13-year-old and caused him to go and stab people in Kingsbury High School? My belief is that, radicalization, it is a culture. It spreads through communities. It spreads through Islamic centers. It spreads through content online and different sources of information. And this is how basically people become terrorists. Just like Diram Barat, who came to the UK when he was 1 year old. He became an Islamic terrorist when he was 20 years old, and he plotted to kill thousands of people, and he went to Kingsbury High School. Another thing about Kingsbury High School, it has a high percentage of Muslim and ethnic pupils. So there are a lot of Muslims in this school, and this is in a Muslim community. It's not all of the pupils in the school. It's not everybody around the school, but it's definitely in the community. I bet you Diram Barat, people that know Diram Barat, related to Diram Barat, they still live in the community near Kingsbury High School. I guarantee you the 7 terrorists that were released from jail that were plotting to kill people with Diram Barat, I guarantee you some of them live in the communities near Kingsbury High School. Some of the people related to these people or people who know these people are still out there radicalizing people in the communities around Kingsbury High School. That is my belief. That is what I think. So the police saying that it's not considered a terrorist attack, but they've got terrorism police involved, I bet you behind the scenes they know, they are predicting it is a possible terrorist attack because he screamed Allahu Akbar. They've had a terrorist from this school before, but also there are multiple mosques in this community, and I bet you there are Islamists and jihadists in this community or from this community, and that is why this young kid, in my opinion, he stabbed 2 pupils from this school. He screamed Allahu Akbar because he has been radicalized. And my belief is the mainstream media won't talk about this. They will not mention Diram Barat. They won't mention the fact he went to the same high school. But I bet you behind the scenes, counter-terrorism police will definitely be taking this into consideration. They'll be looking at potential links between Diram Barat and this young individual or this individual's family to see if there were any links, because Diram Barat, obviously, he was part of a sleeper cell. He had multiple people in London who were part of his sleeper cell plotting to kill thousands of people. And this could have potentially influenced this 13-year-old that just stabbed 2 people at Kingsbury High School. So that's my thoughts on the situation. If you enjoyed the content, consider subscribing, and I'll see you in the next one.